Hello again, everyone, and welcome back to Reddit Aliens. I'm John, and as always, thank you so much for being here. Straightforward, here we go. What's your weird story? Not scary or creepy, just weird. Please remember to like, share, and subscribe. I sleepwalk and sleep talk all the time, not that unusual. My niece, B, was away on holiday with her parents. Now, me and my niece have always been close. We're close in age and went to the same school, so we grew up more like sisters. Anyway, I wake up one morning and my mom comes in and says, "What was all that fuss about B last night?" I had no idea what she was on about. Apparently, I had ran into my mom's room at 4 a.m. shouting, "Where's B? What's happened to B? Is B alright?" My mom calmed me down and took me back to bed. I decided to text B and tell her about it. Turns out that night she was on the flight back from her holiday. I had forgotten when they were coming back, but around 4 a.m., the flight had really bad turbulence, and she had a bad panic attack and couldn't breathe. Walking across a parking lot in college, I found a live Crawdad just chilling in between two cars. It didn't seem injured, so I took it to the nearest drainage pond where it was promptly eaten by a snapping turtle. About 3 years ago in high school, went into the bathroom to take a piss. All the urinals were broken, so I had to use a stall. When I went to the one open stall, a stream of urine went over the divider, perfectly into my toilet. I wasn't mad, I was just shocked and amazed. Glad I wasn't sitting. I have a tendency to get really bad nosebleeds. I was sitting on the toilet and started to feel the warm sensation in my nose. I realized that I was out of toilet paper, so I just stood in the bathtub with a dirty towel until my nose clogged up. By the time I was done bleeding, there was a fair amount of blood in the tub. Coincidentally, I was already late to class and did not have time to clean, so I just washed my face as best I could and left thinking that I could clean the bathroom when I returned. When I got home, the blood was gone. As I don't live with anyone, I was perplexed. How could the blood have disappeared? The only possible reason I can give is as follows. I have a dog. I must have left the bathroom door open, and my dog must have lapped up all of my blood. My friend and I were walking into a Kmart one afternoon. We were just about to cross out of the parking lot when suddenly this car speeds up into the loading area and screeches to a halt in front of us. This young woman is driving and she says, "Do you guys have $200 I could have?" We were taken aback and tell her that no, we don't have $200 that she could have. She yells, "Shit!" and speeds off. I needed to talk to my apartment complex, so I threw on some pants and flip-flops and walked out. While I'm walking over to the office, a guy comes from out of nowhere. I'm in college, but this was the broest looking frat dude. He shouts, "Hey!" and waves me over. "Do you have any weed?" I said, "No." "Do you know where I could buy weed?" I said, "No." "Oh, okay, have a good day." And then he walks away. I thought it was weird, but I go to the office and finish my business and start heading back. While walking back, I'm flagged down by this older-looking Hispanic woman. She comes up to me and starts saying, "You help me, come here." So I did. She takes me up 3 flights of stairs, opens an apartment door, and there are 2 suitcases. She says, "You help me," and points to the larger one. So I pick it up, and she picks up the other and locks the door. I carry the suitcase down the street and she says, "Thank you, you good boy." So I walked away, back to my apartment. Several years back, I was staying with my sister to help out with the kids while her husband was out of town on business. I was heading out of work and she texted me asking if I would stop at the grocery store and pick up 1 or 2 items she needed for dinner that night. I told her I would, and as I was in the grocery store, this woman stopped me and made a comment about my shopping cart. She started asking me questions about myself and guessing oddly specific things. She was really into astrology and numerology, and she made a bunch of comments about my boyfriend at the time that were eerily accurate. She also made comments about me that hit the nail on the head. She then started talking a lot about the Obamas and how they are secretly gay, and Michelle Obama is the one who's actually running the country. She also told me not to let anyone put me under for any type of surgery or dental procedure because the only thing doctors or dentists use anesthesia for is to have sex with their patients. I couldn't get out of the conversation and ended up talking to this crazy lady for over an hour. Astrology has, some interesting aspects to it, but I think that lady was a little touched. I'm a server at a sports bar in Tallahassee, Florida. It was around 4 p.m. in the afternoon, and this black couple comes in. The tall man looked like a rapper from the 90s with a massive shirt and jeans sagged, and the woman was all done up. I take them to my section, and they sit cutely like couples do on the same side of the booth. The man had his menu open, and the girl was wrapped around his arm with her head on his shoulder. So I take their drink order and come back to drop off the drinks. The woman starts freaking the F out. Like literally, oh my god, oh my god, oh my god, oh my god, get a napkin, screaming. So I immediately thought by her body language it was a cockroach. I run to the back, get a napkin, and I'm in panic saying, here, where is it? She literally, I shit you not, takes the napkin, picks up something extremely small, and lifts it up and says in a traumatizing loud voice, oh my god, white people hair, and wraps it up and gives it to me. To this day, I still have never been so dumbfounded. I didn't know what to do, so I told my manager, started cracking up. They didn't tip me. Worth it though. One day during the summer, we had a knock at that door. It was this somewhat older lady, maybe 40s, who was also quite overweight. She said she was from a local church and going house to house collecting bread. It was just extremely weird. She looked very unkempt, like she hadn't showered for a while, but at the same time, she was wearing what looked like nice dress clothes. The really weird thing was her smell, a very strong, overbearing perfume. We gave her what we had and she left. To this day, I think she was probably just a homeless person. Was waiting on a friend at the bus station by the payphones one day. Had a homeless guy come over and pick up one of the phones and just stare at me. He wasn't making a call or anything, just standing there with the phone to his ear and looking at me. He stood there for a good 20 minutes, not saying or doing anything. Didn't even ask me for anything. Finally, he just put the phone back and walked away. No clue what it was about, but it was really weird. We were at a party in high school, and the cops came. My friend and I jumped in the backyard fence, but during the confusion of it all, we got separated. I went up a hill to a cul-de-sac, then looped back down. I was chased by a dog until I lost it in a half-built home I ran through. Ends up back down the street and found my friend as he popped out of a bush he was hiding in. We go to the car and we run into another friend who told us he got this new bong he named Banana Tower, and we went to go smoke out of it. We load the bowl and then realize we have no water. Now, I was a drunk and didn't realize it until then, but the entire time I was jumping a fence, running uphill and dodging a dog through a half-built home, I was carrying a plastic cup filled with water. The water filled the bong to the perfect amount, and we got high, and everyone got home safe. I was picking out steaks at the grocery store one day, and a 40-something woman was standing nearby, also looking at the different meats. She said something along the lines of, "You like grilling weenies?" I laughed awkwardly and said, "Nah, gonna grill steaks tonight." I'll never forget her response. "I don't eat red meat ever since my abortion." But seriously, I had an abortion. There was a year in elementary school where every time I thought of a SpongeBob episode, it would come on the next day. The thing was, though, I couldn't consciously think about the fact that the episode would come on the next day. Otherwise, it wouldn't. The episode would have to randomly pop into my head. By the time the episode aired the next day, it was like, holy shit, I just thought of that episode yesterday. Eventually, it stopped happening because I would always think of an episode and then assume that it was going to air the next day. I hope that made sense. It did in my head. When I was in kindergarten, I had a friend that was an enormous bullshitter. All of his stories were about how he beat some other kid up or scared some adult by just looking at them, but he was a cool guy, so I never thought much of it. It was just one of those things. The sky is blue, water's wet, and this one guy lies 95% of the time. Then one day he reached for the stars, made up a story about him beating up a gang of adults and saving some woman, and now the woman just wouldn't leave him alone because she was in love with him. I blurted out that I knew he was bullshitting. He never spoke to me again. My boyfriend and I were living at his parents' at the time. We were home alone when we hear a pounding on the bedroom door and a man yelling, "Open up, it's the police." Thinking it was his dad effing with us, we opened the door. However, there were 3 cops standing there with a 4th roaming around the house checking all the bedrooms. Apparently, they had gotten a call, just a dial and hang up, and the phone had been traced to the house. They tried pounding on the front door, but our bedroom was in a part of the house where you can't hear knocking or the doorbell. They came around back and made it inside the house. They ended up letting his parents know what number had called, and it was his brother who lived out of state at the time and has also struggled with drug abuse. We think that maybe he thought he overdosed and attempted to call police. I think it would automatically direct him to local police rather than just the city that his area code is. I have 2 stories to share. When I was a freshman in college, I would routinely leave my philosophy class, get a snack from the basement floor vending machine, roam around the building while I ate, and finally I'd head back to class. About halfway through the semester, each time I would go get a snack from the machine, it would always have a large amount of change left over from a prior transaction inside of the coin return slot. This happened for about 2 weeks straight, to the point that I often could just bring a quarter or 2, yet walk away from the vending machine with a substantially higher priced item. I remember that I went back and, for the first time in a while, found no loose change. The next day, the machine was gone and it was never replaced. A former friend and I had smoked a large amount of marijuana one night and decided, as I'm sure that a lot of us do when we're stoned, to drive over to Taco Bell for some late night grub. This was right after a particularly large snowstorm, and although people in our town had resumed normal travel on the roads, most side streets and parking lots were either not cleared or were only plowed minimally. My friend drove, and when he pulled into the parking lot of the Taco Bell, we lost traction and began to spin out immediately. I know that we didn't, but it truly felt as if we went up on 2 wheels momentarily, while quickly sliding to the right sideways. My friend began turning us back left to hopefully even out. He turned the wheel too much, and we began sliding to our left, still sideways. He finally grabbed both sides of the wheel in an attempt to even us out, with the car now headed for a snow mound. I closed my eyes and clutched onto the door handle and was quickly greeted with him shouting. When I opened my eyes, we were positioned perfectly at the start of the drive-through line. We proceeded to order our food like nothing had happened at all and continued on our way. One time when I was about 7 or 8, this crazy energetic little terrier dog burst into my house, went straight for the open fridge, got a mouthful of ham and darted back out into our garden. It seemed to be homeless, and I had always wished for a dog, so I begged and pleaded to keep it, but wasn't allowed, so my dad left the gate open and never see it again. I cried, lol.